the story of Exodus and plagues. Let us turn our hearts to a story of profound transformation. When the mighty Nile flowed with mysteries, and the desert winds carried whispers of freedom. In this tale, we find Moses and Aaron approaching the great palace of Egypt, their hearts steady with divine purpose, like stars following their appointed paths. The Egyptian morning dawned golden over the palace walls, where Pharaoh sat upon his throne like a mountain unmoved by time. Moses and Aaron entered the grand hall, where pillars rose like cedar trees and hieroglyphs told stories of power and permanence. Their request was simple as morning light, carried on words gentle yet firm as a shepherd's staff. Let our people go. But Pharaoh's heart had grown hard as sun-baked clay, resistant to the touch of compassion. Like a river stone smoothed by years of flowing water, his resolve remained unchanged by gentle words. And so began a time of signs and wonders, each one flowing into the next like waves upon the shore, meant not for destruction, but for awakening. The first sign came to the great river Nile, life-giver to Egypt since time beyond memory, as Aaron extended the staff over the waters that flowed like liquid gold in morning light. A change began subtle as twilight turning to dusk. The river transformed, its waters no longer clear as crystal, but taking on a new nature, teaching that even the mightiest of rivers flows under divine authority. Days passed like shadows across sundials, and a second sign emerged from the waters. From the Nile and every pool and pond, creatures emerged in numbers beyond counting, covering the land like morning dew. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained unmoved, like a boulder refusing spring's gentle erosion. The third sign arose from the very dust of Egypt, as fine as evening mist rising from cooling sands. The earth itself seemed to stir with tiny life, teaching that even the smallest things can carry great purpose. Still, like a date palm refusing to bend in desert winds, Pharaoh's resolve stood firm against these gentle lessons. Then came days when the air filled with wings, like leaves dancing on autumn breezes. Creatures both small and smaller moved across the land in waves soft as windblown sand. They touched every corner of Egyptian life, from humble homes to palace halls, reminding all that no place stands beyond the reach of divine purpose. The fifth sign affected the animals that shared Egyptian lives, from the strongest ox to the gentlest lamb. Like evening shadows lengthening across the land, a quietness fell over stables and fields. Yet even as Egyptian hearts grew heavy with concern, the animals of the Israelites remained as healthy as morning flowers touched by dew, as gentle as snow falling on distant mountains. The sixth sign brought discomfort to Egyptian skin, like desert wind carrying the finest sand. Even the wise men of Egypt found themselves touched by this sign, teaching that wisdom must bow before divine authority. The seventh sign came from the sky itself, like drums rolling in distant hills. Water fell in forms Egypt had never known, teaching that even the familiar patterns of nature flow according to divine will. Yet through it all, the children of Israel dwelt in peace, like birds sheltered from storm winds. The eighth sign arrived on eastern winds, carrying creatures that moved across the land like living shadows. They touched every green thing, teaching that all abundance flows from divine grace. In these moments, even Pharaoh's advisors began to speak words soft as evening prayers, urging him to consider the message carried on these signs. The ninth sign drew a veil across the Egyptian sky, like twilight arriving before its appointed hour. For 3 days, darkness settled over the land thick as honey, yet in the homes of the Israelites, light remained gentle as morning sun. This teaching wrapped around Egyptian hearts like a quiet question, asking them to consider who truly governed the rhythms of day and night. Throughout these signs, Moses maintained a spirit gentle as morning dew. Even as he carried messages firm as mountain stone, his heart held compassion soft as mother's love. Each time he approached Pharaoh, it was with hope quiet as starlight, that hearts might soften, that wisdom might flow like spring waters into dry places. Then came the final sign, solemn as midnight shadows. Moses spoke of it with voice tender as evening prayer, warning of a night unlike any other. He instructed the children of Israel to prepare with careful attention. Like gardeners tending precious seeds, they were to mark their doorways with signs of protection, gather their families close as sheep in evening folds, and wait with hearts ready as fields before harvest. On that night, silence fell over Egypt deep as desert wells. A presence moved through the land like wind through temple corridors, passing over the marked doors of the Israelites, while Egypt learned its final lesson. When morning came, it brought with it cries soft as distant doves, as every Egyptian home faced loss tender as heartbeats. This time, Pharaoh's heart melted like winter frost touched by dawn. His words fell quiet as tears on temple floors, releasing the Israelites from their long bondage. Like a river finally breaking through ancient banks, freedom flowed into the lives of God's people. Under stars bright as promise, the children of Israel began their journey. They moved like a great river of humanity, carrying centuries of hopes and dreams wrapped in bundles precious as newborns. Their departure was not in haste, but in order, like clouds following winds across desert skies. Behind them, the mighty walls of Egypt grew distant as fading dreams, while before them stretched paths unknown as tomorrow's dawn. They carried with them vessels of silver and gold, freely given by their Egyptian neighbors, like seeds of future plantings stored against coming seasons. These gifts would later serve divine purpose, precious as morning light for the building of sacred spaces. As they journeyed, a pillar of cloud led them by day, gentle as mothers guiding children, while at night a pillar of fire illuminated their way soft as starlight on desert sands. In these signs they found constant comfort, like familiar landmarks in unknown territories. The divine presence moved with them, steady as seasons, constant as northern stars. But peace, like evening light, often fades into deeper shadows before dawn brings renewal. Word came like wind through papyrus reeds that Pharaoh's heart had hardened once more. Firm as midday sun, His armies moved across the land swift as hawks, chariots numerous as desert grains rolling toward the children of Israel. Fear rippled through the people like evening breezes through palm fronds. They found themselves caught between armies vast as wheat fields and waters deep as time. Yet Moses' voice remained steady as temple foundations, reminding them of divine promise soft as morning light. Stand still, he spoke, and see salvation flow like spring waters. As evening wrapped around them like a protective cloak, the pillar of cloud moved between them and their pursuers, bringing light to one side and darkness to the other, gentle as twilight dividing day from night. Then Moses stretched his staff over the waters, steady as prayer rising from ancient altars. Through the long hours of darkness, winds moved across the waters, strong as divine purpose, yet gentle as shepherd's touch. The sea itself divided, like curtains drawing apart in holy temples, revealing a path dry as desert stones. Walls of water stood firm as mountains on either side, yet peaceful as sleeping pools. Through this divine pathway the children of Israel moved, their footsteps steady as heartbeats on ground that had known only fish and waves since time began. The sound of their passing mingled with the gentle holding of the waters, like soft echoes in sacred caves. Children walked beside elders, families moved as one, their amazement quiet as prayer. When morning light touched the eastern sky, soft as hope, the last of the Israelites stepped onto the far shore, safe as birds reaching distant branches. Then they turned to witness what followed, still as dawn air before sunrise. The Egyptian army, proud as ancient cedars, had followed them into the sea path, their chariots numerous as stars. Moses stretched his hand over the waters once more, gentle as a father's blessing. The walls of water, patient as mountains throughout the night, now returned to their natural state, flowing like time itself. The mighty armies that had seemed unstoppable as desert storms became like morning mist, fading into the returning seas. In the quiet that followed, deep as desert wells, understanding settled over the people like dew. They had witnessed power beyond imagining, yet gentle as spring rain. Their deliverance was complete as circles, perfect as full moons reflected in still pools. Freedom wrapped around them warm as sunrise. Then Moses began to sing, his voice rising like incense in morning air. Miriam, his sister, took up her tambourine, its sounds soft as rainfall on temple roofs. All the women joined her, their dancing graceful as palm fronds in evening breeze. Their song of deliverance floated over the waters gentle as birds' wing, carrying praise ancient as creation, yet new as morning light. This moment beside the sea became memory precious as inherited gold, passing from generation to generation like carefully tended flames. It taught that divine love flows strong as rivers, yet tender as mother's touch, that liberation comes to those who trust patient as planted seeds, that every journey through depths leads to shores bright with promise.